Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Green Finance webinar, where we have an illustrious panel from the City of London Corporation, the Central American Bank for Economic Integration, and our minister from Nicaragua, all three gentlemen being accompanied by Her Excellency Giselle Morales, the Ambassador of Nicaragua to the United Kingdom. My name is Adrian Mayers. I am a Common Councilman at the City of London Corporation and also an honorary diplomat for Nicaragua to the UK. I will be chairing the event this evening. First, before I introduce our ambassador, let me just quickly go through some house rules. During this time of COVID, our hearts go out to those who are affected and their families. It has given us an opportunity for us to do things in a new way. One of those opportunities is having this event done online in a virtual setting. So should you have any technical glitches, the simple solution that we've always found helpful is to log off and then log back on. The Lord Mayor has also given us notice that he will have to leave at 4:45, and he sends his apologies. So hopefully we will have our Lord Mayor staying to hopefully take one or two questions at the end of the session. Members on this webinar, as I said, we have three very illustrious panelists. There will be a chance for question and answers at the end. We are hoping that you will have prepared some very intelligent questions that our illustrious panelists could answer. On that note, I'm going to formally welcome the panel. And at this point, Her Excellency Giselle Morales, who will open the session to everybody. Welcome, Ambassador.
You're on mute.
Ambassador, you're on mute.
Thank you, Adrian. Your Excellency, Lord Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am profoundly grateful to each and every one of you joining us today as we virtually gather to engage in what the President of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, and our Vice President, Rosario Murillo, the government and the people of Nicaragua believe is an essential dialogue on the crucial role of green finance to fight climate change. As an urgent existential imperative and a significant commercial opportunity to drive job creation and accelerate economic growth in our country and in the UK and in the whole world. Lord Mayor, allow me to express how inspired I was by your words and commitment, and from those of many of the world leading figures in finance, business, and governments expressed at the Green Horizon Summit in November last year. The time is now to reset the relationship between finance and the real economy, for public and private finance to get behind the transition to a sustainable and resilient future for all. Your presence here today once again showcase the commitment and the role of the City of London as a world leader in green finance in helping the country and the world to build back better through supporting sustainable infrastructure and creating green financial products. Nicaragua shares that commitment and ambition. In fact, we embarked on this path toward achieving green and sustainable economy and fair society back in 2007. And in this period of 14 years, while we faced some of the greatest challenges in history, including unprecedented hurricanes and natural disasters directly linked to climate change, as our country is one of the most vulnerable in the world to global warming, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. We were also able to achieve key milestones, such as transforming our energy matrix from less than 25% to nearly 80% from renewable sources, while providing access to electricity from half of our people to now over 98% of the population. We also work really hard on the equality, inclusion, and diversity agendas that I know are very close to you. And while we all have a lot to do, we became the 5th most gender equal country in the world, according to the World Economic Forum, and the 4 ahead of us are all in the Arctic Circle. This green and sustainable drive also allows us to cut poverty in half, grow our economy, and reach the highest security and safety levels in the region, and to rank top in the indices measuring the easiness of doing business and impact of crime. During this green journey, the Central American Bank of Integration has been fundamental partner, providing essential finance and loans for infrastructure and sustainable development projects. Today, I am sincerely thankful to Mr. Jaime Diaz, its acting executive president, who will present the bank leadership in driving green financial investment and development, like its first green bond recently issued and funding of a significant green portfolio of projects in Nicaragua and the region. You'll also hear from our Minister of Presidency for National Policies, Dr. Paul Oquist, former co-chair of Green Climate Fund and actual advisor of the fund, about the latest financial policies, incentive and exciting projects available for green investment and execution in the largest nation of the Central American integration system, which between its 8 members countries has combined population of 60 million and is the 4th largest economy in Latin America, and of which the UK is an observer member state. To conclude, I wish to borrow the words of Lord Mayor, as Nicaragua is, at this historic moment, joining a global and green Britannia to build back better. Nicaragua is ready and set to become a stronger trade and commercial partner and source of green finance and ESG investment and business opportunity for the UK, PLC, and the university investment community of the City of London. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for those very warm words on this slightly colder day. May I also welcome everybody, our many viewers who are viewing this webinar on YouTube. I hope you find it informative. Right, now we're going to get into the more meaty part of our webinar. Let me firstly welcome our Lord Mayor and Alderman at the City of London Corporation, William Russell, who will showcase the city's plans towards our move in green finance and net zero. Welcome, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. And Ambassador, thank you. And Minister, thank you as well for having me. And Ambassador, your words could not ring out more true. I've been most of this week at the World Economic Forum, and the good news is that there is huge momentum. And I listened to John Kerry yesterday, and the great news is that America is back in, and that is a critical thing for all of us when it comes to the climate change. And I'm very positive about what COP26 will deliver. But it's a pleasure to address you all today as part of this event, exploring green finance opportunities in Nicaragua. And I'm William Russell, the 692nd Lord Mayor of the City of London, and it's a huge privilege. My role is to act as an ambassador for the UK's financial and professional services. But as Adrienne knows, I'm now calling myself the Green Lord Mayor, because I genuinely believe that 2021 is a game-changing year for all of us. And the UK has this opportunity to lead the world globally when it comes to green finance and climate change through our role as hosting COP26. As we know, this year, we watched the coronavirus pandemic sweep across the world. And many people would have thought that because of COVID-19, the green agenda would go to the back burner. But actually, the green agenda has come to the front burner. And I'm one of those people that despite all the tragedy of COVID-19, you have to look for the positives. And one of the positives, and there'll be others, is around climate change. It has focused all of our minds. What is the next big disaster for the world? And we've all woken up to the fact that it's going to be climate change. And there are huge opportunities around climate change. Now, governments and talented businesses have come together to actually help not only on COVID-19, but now are coming together to help around climate change and what we can do. And as we begin the global recovery, those efforts of COVID-19, we must emulate again through this crisis of climate change. The role of finance will be crucial in our transition to a net zero global economy. I heard Mark Carney yesterday in one of the forums I was in say, someone asked him the question, he said, what is it that you want to get out of COP26? And he said, this COP26 is the net zero COP. Everyone has to commit to net zero. This is our opportunity. And those who don't will be mentioned and won't be in the club, so to speak. And we already have so many big firm commitments from so many countries around the world. But also the other thing is, as I go on in the speech, to say that Mark Carney talks about, as he did at the Green Horizon Summit, which was hosted by myself and Mark Carney, he talks about the 3 R's. One is the reporting. Better reporting enables financial institutions to price climate risk and value. And the other one is risk. Better risk management keeps the financial system stable for all and enables prosperity. And then there's the third one, which is reporting risk. Together with reporting and risk management, we can unlock number 3, which is the returns. And there are jobs to be created and returns to be made. And I can see already from your opening remarks, Ambassador, that Nicaragua understands those opportunities. Just yesterday, I heard that 50 investors went to visit Brazil to say, how can we help with climate change and invest in you, knowing there are returns to be made? And I think I would encourage that all the countries around the world to see the opportunities there are from climate change. One of the things I talk about on many occasions is that the capital is there. You find me the projects, or find the projects for the capital. And I'm sure you'll be working on that in Nicaragua and how you can do that. So I'd strongly also encourage you to read the strategy that Mark Carney has come up with. Yesterday, we had the launch with Bill Winters about the voluntary carbon market. And that is something which is a start. It's not the perfect. We all understand it's not perfect because carbon pricing isn't perfect. But we need to somehow get there. And I sensed from the World Economic Forum this week is that everyone is looking at standardization. We need standards around the world so everyone can work through similar standards. And that's something which, to be frank, the EU Commission are working very hard on with their green taxonomy as well. And I think we can circle around a lot of those things. But reiterating the fact that our friends in America are back in the Paris climate agreement is massive for the world. And I think that is very exciting. John Kerry used the word humility a number of times. He says we're using it because they've been away from this all this agenda for the last 4 years. And the other thing is demonstrating our commitment to net zero economy. The UK made some announcements during the Green Horizon Summit. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, declared the UK government would be introducing a new green taxonomy, which and to help firms and investors understand the impact of their decisions on the environment. And they also will be issuing our first sovereign green bond in 2021 ahead of COP26. And most excitingly, they plan to set the UK on a path to mandatory TCFD. I'd be interested to hear what is going on in Nicaragua around mandatory TCFD. We're doing that for all listed corporates and financial firms by 2025. In fact, I heard just this week from the Japanese finance minister that Japan is ahead of everybody in the world on that front. They've had more corporates sign up than any other country. At least that's what they told me. But I'm sure after this week in the World Economic Forum, even more will sign up. So we know that Latin America shares the UK's ambitions for creating a climate resilient future. And events like this one demonstrate the region's leadership and innovation in that. And these objectives are also mirrored by the Green Finance Institute that we've established in London. And their innovative project pulls together government, academic, and financial expertise to identify practical and commercial means to reallocate capital for a new and sustainable economy. At the heart of the City of London's financial centre, with access to the city's deep capital markets and expertise developed over centuries, the Green Finance Institute is ready and willing to work with stakeholders around the globe, especially those in Latin America, to better filter investments into green projects. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has brought about seismic change to our societies. And as we begin to respond to that change, we must ensure that our focus remains green. From my conversations at the Green Horizon Summit, it was clearly evident that financing the greatest economic transformation of our time is the future of finance, and that we are fast approaching a world in which every financial decision will take change into account. Financial markets have the power to put us on track for Paris and prosperity. And as we prepare for COP26 in Glasgow, and many of you know the phrase, it's the yellow brick road. I call it the green brick road to Glasgow. We all have a pivotal role to play in delivering the transition to net zero and a climate resilient future. So I look forward to working with you. It's great that you have someone of such high caliber in Adrian Myers, who is a true leader in the City of London, and it's good that he's involved. But through him, you will be able to see everything that we're doing in London around green finance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. If I was to summarize, I'd quote Robert Frost, and miles to go before we sleep, and miles to go before we sleep. On that note, let me please welcome Minister Dr. Oquist, Minister of Policy at the Nicaraguan government, who has honored us with his time today. Welcome, Minister. Happy to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Myers. An honor to be here in the presence of the Lord Mayor. And thank you for Ambassador Giselle Morales organizing this event. Nicaragua has struggled against the COVID-19 pandemic more successfully than many countries with far more resources through major public health investments since 2007 and public health policies based on Nicaraguan realities, without closing the economy or locking down the population. The results in controlling both the pandemic and economically are among the best in Latin America and the Caribbean. The response was strengthened because in 2007, Nicaragua declared universal, gratuitous health and education, but also invested heavily, 18 new hospitals, 58% more than before 2007. Health workers increased from 22,000 to 36,000, doctors from 2,700 to 6,000, and the health expenditure increased by 4 times. We were better able in 2020 to face this than we would have been in 2007. Also, protocols, facilities, and training were also prepared 1 month before the first case, and 4.6 million house-to-house visits in a country of 6 million people were made by volunteers to prepare the population in addition to the media campaign. Another factor has been the daily follow-up of cases in isolation due to illness or exposure to sick people. Cases confirmed positive receive medicine at home for ambulatory patients. Also, vaccines are now being negotiated. And the end result, Nicaragua has 77 public health hospitals as compared to 44 in Guatemala and as few as 18 in Panama. This had its effect. Nicaragua's had 4,900 cases, 169 confirmed deaths. Last week, there were 39 confirmed cases and 1 death. The deaths per 100,000 population are Nicaragua 2.6, Panama 123.9, United States 131.1, and United Kingdom 153.5, according to the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center. Nicaragua has the highest export growth in Latin America and the Caribbean in 2020, according to the Economic Commission on Latin America and the Caribbean of the United Nations. This has helped us immensely to keep our economy on track. And it's also a product of not having had a lockdown. We grew by 8%, the exports, and while the region decreased by 13%. Only 2 other countries had plus 1% growth. The rest were negative, as you can appreciate in the chart on the screen. Nicaragua's exports included beans, which increased by 50%. We were feeding Nicaragua and the neighboring countries. Also cheese by 28%, raw tobacco 27%, Since we're a gold producing country, we also benefited from the increase in the price of gold by 33%. But basically, the increase in exports was foodstuff to neighboring countries. Nicaragua will also return to growth in 2021, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit, which calculates that Nicaragua's gross domestic product will grow by 3.5% in 2021. The increase in exports and the return to growth has been achieved thanks to the policy of not closing the country's economy or confining the population during the COVID-19 pandemic. This should offend the 40% of the population in the countryside, most of them in the subsistence economy, the 80% of urban workers looking for their daily bread, and also, since they're in the formal sector, and also the poor students of public schools have neither the computer resources nor the housing conditions for virtual learning. So this sets the stage for the investment opportunities in renewable energy. Nicaragua was 26% renewable in 2007. Now it's 74% renewable with a nice mix of hydro, geothermal, biomass, wind, and we also have investment opportunities in hydroelectric projects since we have a mountain range in the center of the country with a nice fall to the Caribbean coastal region. And here's a list of the projects that are available for potential investors. We have geothermal potential, 1,500 megawatts of geothermal potential, since we have a volcanic mountain range that runs along the Pacific coast. We have wind energy opportunities also. Nicaragua is the gold standard for eolic or wind energy. In the North Sea, they consider a turbine to be a very good one if it's producing 30 to 35% of the time. In Poland, the minister told me that his turbines work 20% of the time. And Nicaragua, on an annualized basis, the turbines in southwestern Nicaragua in the Department of Rivas work 58% of the time. That's why Nicaragua is the gold standard in wind energy. And there's projects available also in this area of southwestern Nicaragua and Rivas. Because it's between the ocean, the big lake, 140 kilometers long, 40 kilometers wide, and a isthmus in the isthmus that's only 20 kilometers wide. So you always have differential in pressure and air pressure in that situation. In terms of solar radiation, Nicaragua has also been blessed, although on a very hot day, you might not think so. But in Europe, the solar radiation is between 2,000, 2,500 rad. In Nicaragua, it goes up to 5,800 rad in northwestern Nicaragua. I've always been amazed by the fact that where you have the most solar panels in the world, in Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, is where you have the least sunshine also. You know, you go for a month with cloudy weather. But Nicaragua has tremendous opportunities for photovoltaic energy. There's also CPAC that exists. It runs from Guatemala to Panama. And it's possible, there's a possibility to get solar or wind generation license for export and sell to the CPAC spot market rather than a national market. Last year, Nicaragua bought 24% of its energy at lower prices from this market. With the inevitable visit of El Nino and the drought, it will make it will bring Costa Rica and Panama to this market because they have a large dependence on hydroelectric power that will be affected by the drought. And you can see that Costa Rica depends on 73% of its energy generation on hydroelectric energy, and Panama 50%. But Panama also uses the canal and Lake Gatun water to operate the canal locks and for the water supply of Colón and part of Panama City. So they would have horrendous trade-offs if they don't import electricity. With regard to forest production and wood processing, Nicaragua has a strategy for reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation. A very interesting aspect of this is that Nicaragua's agreed with the World Bank that we consider as part of reforestation not only trees, but also bamboo, coffee, both Arabigo and Robusta, cocoa and rubber, because they're all semi-perennial plants that capture greenhouse gases. We have plantations with over 70,000 hectares planted, and we also have agroforestry and silvopastoral programs by which farmers and cattlemen and women combine forestry with their root activity. We have a series of plantations, and several of them, those that are in yellow, are looking for international investors. This has the advantage, instead of waiting for the 20 years that the trees need to mature in this tropical climate, some of them are 10, 12 years into it already, so that the time to full production is shorter. We're putting together a forest investment fund to promote community forestry, the agroforestry, the silvopastoral system, and plantations. We're in conversations with the Green Climate Fund to finance this, and they are willing to put up $50 million at a first loss basis to attract other private financiers with a target of $250 million in investment. The best bet here are institutional investors, pension funds, insurance investment funds, because both the pension funds and the insurance investment funds like long-term projects because their commitments are long-term and they have less transaction costs if they go for the long term. We also are blessed with the Caribbean pine, the most tropical pine in the world. It's so valuable that the seeds are worth $400 a kilo. So it's not the type of pine seed you put on your breakfast cereal. We have 100,000 hectares standing and 200,000 hectares suitable for planting because it's the natural habitat of this valuable pine. These 200,000 hectares were cut down with no reforestation whatsoever by the Somoza regime, but this is where these trees are from, and this is where they can return with reforestation. There is an opportunity already formulated to have a startup of 10,000 hectares of these trees and start a forestry industry in northeastern Nicaragua with enormous potential for expansion. This project has an investment value of $22 million, and it would be a partnership between indigenous communities and foreign investors to sustainably manage these 10,000 hectares of pine forest and establish a 24,000 cubic meter finished product industry for starters, because it can expand. The trees are already there, reforestation of that area and the area where the already degraded forest can take place, and establish a 20-year cycle for sustainable forestry. These trees grow to maturity in 20 years. The Norwegian and Swedish pines that my father spent his youth cutting down in the dark at minus 20 degrees in northern Sweden take 120 years to grow to maturity, which is one reason why we have Norwegian investors who think that this is absolutely marvelous. There can be production of doors, windows, wood flooring for export with these woods. And there's also an opportunity on the Iniacta project in San Juan del Sur and Nagarote plantation and a processing plant in Gilawa, Managua, to invest in making prefabricated houses for the countryside. We're putting together a promotion fund for private investment with an $8 million ante to implement a broad effort to increase investment in forestry plantations and develop high-tech agroforestry and silvopastoral farms. We have a whole series of fiscal benefits for the forestry sector, property tax benefits with forest management plans. There's an exemption from duties and import taxes. This is also the case for renewable energy. There's a whole series of benefits that run for 10 years, renewable, and there's also free convertibility, freedom to repatriate all capital and all income, full international property rights, no discrimination whatsoever against foreign investors, full protection of property rights, intellectual property, trademark, and access to the local financial market. This is a picture of Lake Nicaragua, of the Ometepe Islands, and the Concepcion volcano with the ferry headed in that direction. We hope when the world travels again that we see you here on that ferry traveling to the enchanting island of Ometepe, the largest island in a freshwater lake that has two volcanoes on it to boot. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Minister Oquist. I think there's a clear message coming from the government and from Minister Oquist over there that Nicaragua are ahead in Central and Latin America in this space, but more importantly, thinking of the future and how we can help others develop this. Now, it is a privilege to welcome our acting executive president of CABE, Mr. Jaime Diaz. Welcome, Mr. Diaz. Over to you. Mr. Diaz, you're on mute. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you first, Honorable Lord Mayor, Ambassador, Ministers, and distinguished audience. I want to make a short presentation today. And the presentation today is about the green finance opportunities in Nicaragua. And I'm going to tell you three big stories. First, the story about climate change and the region of Central America, especially Nicaragua. Second, how the Central American Bank for Economic Integration is working towards that green finance opportunities and to commit our resources for climate change agenda. And number three, just to showcase some of the projects that we are working on. First of all, our bank is a Central American bank. It just happened that we just celebrate 60 years of existence last year. It is actually led by the 5 countries of Central America countries, but also it is a global bank with stakeholders that are committed to this agenda, including countries like Korea, Spain, Mexico, among others. So let me begin. The first story, Central America and climate change. I just want you to remember these pictures that you are looking here. It is highly affected by the impact of climate change. It's every decade, every 5 years, that our countries are suffering these horrific effects of climate change through hurricanes, tropical storms, and you name it. We have it in all the countries from Panama, even Colombia, to Mexico, and the whole 5 countries of Central America affected. You can see some pictures here. But the second, the second part of the story is that our countries are actually not generating or not contributing to the problem. You can see in this picture the CO2 emissions, and it is practically nothing what Central America is contributing in terms of emissions and to this problem. Nonetheless, our member countries, the 5 countries and all the countries in our institutions are committed to the climate change agenda, mitigation and adaptation plans. And our institution also had a statement to promote and support actions to finance adaptation and mitigation to climate change. And also, we did a statement on zero carbon. I want also to show you that when the climate change effects hit, we are the first to be there as a relief and as a support for reconstruction. Just for instance, last year in November, the hurricanes Eta and Iota just impacted the region. Just after the worst year, probably in the last century and probably in history among the worst recessions that COVID affected. So can you imagine being during last year hit by 2 major hurricanes? What was the cost? Around 8 million people in Nicaragua, Honduras, and Guatemala were affected. Several bridges were completely destroyed. Houses were completely destroyed. And on this, and just a week after these hurricanes happened to pass our countries, there was a meeting held by the presidents of these countries and all the countries in our institution, and we were looking how to support immediately. Some of the one program was created, and here you can see some of the actions that we were looking and committing over $2.5 million, not only for emergency aid, but also to build back better and build resilience. The story number one is climate change is intrinsic to our region, and we are also committed to solve the problem. How our bank is working on that. And I'm going to show you just 2 slides such that you can see the commitment that we have. First of all, over 30% of our portfolio is financing operations with a climate change impact. You can see here on green is the amount of climate commitments that we do every year, and in blue you can see the total commitment. So this is not only the most important bank for the region, but also is the most important bank that is contributing to finance the climate or the green financing agenda. And the second is, maybe you will ask how we do that. So we do it directly from our investments, from our capital that we have, but also we share credit lines with partners. You can see here, for instance, KfW or AFW, where we are mobilizing resources towards specific projects that are contributing this agenda. Also in the middle, you can see we are part of the CIS, or the Climate Investment Funds, and you can see the intermediary funds, and you can see here, for instance, the Green Climate Fund, where we are going to show you some projects that we are financing. And finally, you can see that also we are using our passive or liabilities also to contribute, issuing green bonds or thematic bonds that are contributing to the climate change agenda. So let's take a look of our portfolio. I'm just going to give you a snapshot of the projects that we have under implementation, and also on the pipeline of projects that we are working on. So first one, let's look at this project. Our board just approved last December. This project, it is an 150 million project that is going to use resources to tackle the climate action to reduce deforestation in San Juan, which is Rio San Juan. And this project is very important because we are working, but also helping to mobilize funds from the Green Climate Fund, for the GEF, and also from working together with the World Bank. So this is a way where the Central American Bank for Economic Integration is working along different partners from this climate agenda, and we are also an accredited institutions from the Green Climate Fund. Second, not only it's about forestation and how we can contribute to promote better forest and sustainable conditions, but also to mitigate the impacts in communities, and also to adapt their conditions to climate change. And one other effect that we have is the dry corridor, when we have difficult times during the year where people lost their production or families lost their income. So we are working with IFAD and also with the government of Nicaragua and other beneficiaries to mobilize funds that are going to help to improve the conditions of family, and mainly the indigenous people. I'm going to go fast for you to just look at different projects. We are also working on renewables. Nicaragua is a great example on how you can advance in the total coverage of the population. Is almost having every household of the population with an access. Now we are working on helping to shift this energy matrix towards renewable resources. And you can see this is a huge project of over $600 million to help to achieve this goal. And finally, I'm going to just show you we are part of this Cambio project, not only Nicaragua, but the whole countries that we're looking. What is the sample of the pipeline? So what we're working on at this moment, for instance, you can see this project that is going to help to strengthen the adaptive capacity of vulnerable people, also for the dry corridor, but this case is for Central American and Dominican Republic. So this is a regional project. The second, and I think this could be closer to the Lord Mayor of London, and also big cities that are having problems with logistics and urban mobilization. But as you know, these systems can create more of a problem. So the important part of this project in Costa Rica is that this is also working with the Green Climate Fund. The board of the Green Climate Fund is going to help also to work that this is going to avoid emissions. And you can see more projects going onwards, like the dry corridor in Honduras, or the National Rainforest Fund that you already see some pictures before about forestation that we're working on. So just as an example of the projects, we are the bank of the Central American countries. We are here in Central America closer to be part of the solution and committed to tackle the main issues about climate change. And as the Lord Mayor said, we also are working with the countries to build the pipeline of investment and looking for these 3 R's: return, risk, and good reporting. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dias, for a very informative presentation, and one which had many good examples showcasing the work between Cabe and Nicaragua. Whilst we get questions coming in, and I recognize that our Lord Mayor will be leaving us very shortly, but if I use my prerogative as chair and putting forward a very quick question to our Lord Mayor.
Sure.
Lord Mayor, the City of London is driving forward our transition to net zero. Following the Green Horizon Summit, which we co-hosted late last year, what do you think will be the corporation's main focus at COP26 this year? What message would we be putting out there as a corporation?
So I think the main message is that finance is critical in everything. And I know, Jamie Diaz, you'll agree with that, and Cabe, and what you're doing, very impressive. Without finance, we aren't going to get to net zero emissions by 2050. Finance is going to be in everything we do. So, and that's private and public, and it's great to see what you're doing at Cabe, and Minister, very impressed with what you're doing. And the follow-up, it seems to me here, Ambassador, with Adrienne is, you know, how much, I'd be interested to know how much money has been invested from the pool of liquidity in London, and we recognise that the developing countries is where we really need to do a lot of the hard work. I heard Modi talking today at World Economic Forum, and the theme is a global theme, and as we know, China have committed to 2060. You know, I think that finance is the key. We are hoping, from the City of London's perspective, to have some sort of finance pavilion. As we run into COP26, I'm hosting a whole lot of green teas with Mark Carney. And the reason why they're teas is because he lives in Canada, and it would be a bit unfair if we had green breakfast, because you'd have to get up at 4 a.m. But we're taking different sectors of finance, whether it's insurance, whether it's the banking, the asset management side, and so that would be my big thing, is that finance is in everything we want to achieve to get to net zero, and alongside what Mark Carney was saying, that this is the net zero COP. Now is the time to commit to net zero, companies, countries, and everyone around the world. My
Lord Mayor, thank you so much. A very clear message there, that it's financing.
Thank you.
You will be leaving us. Thank you once again.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to Nicaragua on what you're doing, and continue the good work. And I know, as you know, Adrienne is in the asset management business. I'm sure he can find you some money to invest in all those wonderful projects, Minister. Thank you very much.
I would like to make 3 very fast points before you leave, Lord Mayor. One, on the issue of the electrification. In 2007, 54% of the houses in Nicaragua had electricity, about half, a little more than half.
Yeah.
Right now it's 98%, and photo panels solar panels are being installed and the rest of them. So we'll be about 99% next year. So there's been electrification of the country in 13 years. A second point that I find interesting is that in the dry zone, the reservoirs will be made much larger than is justified by the streams they are on. And this is to capture several years of rain when a tropical storm or hurricane comes over. So the hurricane can have a positive effect also by giving the dry zone water for several years. And the third point is, we wholeheartedly agree with you that finance is the key to this. The political will, I think, is getting there.
Yeah, I agree.
The finance has to follow and follow fast. And our hope is that Mr. Mark Carney and yourself are the heroes of COP26 in Glasgow by getting the institutional investors, the pension funds, the insurance investment funds to come up with the really large sums of money that are required.
Well, I hope so as well. And the good news is that there is so much money flowing into ESG funds that they need to put them into projects. So whether it's pooling projects that you have with other parts of the world, and you have someone came up yesterday with a green bond fund, which is green bonds from around the world, etc. So I think it's going to happen. And I think what Larry Fink said just yesterday or 2 days ago is part of that. The will's there and the political will's there. And I wish you the best of luck, and anything we could do to help, let Adrian know, and we will. But very good to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. So I've been informed that we have quite a few questions coming through. So I recognize we only have 15 or so minutes left. So the first question, if I may bear with me whilst I read it, it's a question for Minister Oquist. Nicaragua continues driving forward the transition to net zero and working in a multilateral area to achieve this. Bear with us. We have been successful in climate finance compared to the comparable countries, naturally and economically. The question is this related to particular political, social, and cultural consensus?
There is a policy of inclusion, redistribution in Nicaragua that moves forward this agenda. For example, the indigenous and Afro-descendant communities on the Caribbean coast have received more than 37,000 square kilometers of land that has been demarcated and title given to 23 indigenous and Afro-descendant local governments, to territorial governments, to manage that land. Most of the forests in the country are in that area. So community forestry, through these indigenous groups, we have complete control over their land and their resources. And as we all know, do much better at stewardship than other classes do. This is in a great movement forward. It's going to help projects like Bioclima in the biospheres be highly successful. And it's also economically interesting because to manage a hectare of forest for a year on a commercial basis costs $500. If the indigenous communities are doing it, it costs $300. So the cost structure is an advantage there too. It's lower. And we can move faster on forestry projects because of this social policy of inclusion and empowerment of previously excluded people, to wit, the indigenous and Afro-descendant communities on the Caribbean coast. That's one example of many.
Thank you, Minister Oquist. Mr. Diaz, we've got another one come in. Bear with me whilst I just pull it up. And to be fair, I think this particular question shows that our audience have been paying attention. The Lord Mayor mentioned about you show us the projects and we'll get the financing, and you touched on that in your presentation as well. So let me just reread the question. Bear with us. Over the years, CABE has helped finance many strategic projects for Nicaragua, from water and sanitation services to highways. Only in September 2020, CABE played a key role in supporting Nicaragua with a healthcare project in Bilwi by building a hospital that benefited over 50,000 people. The question is, can you see the bank doing something similar from a green finance perspective, and hopefully some form of financing or joint financing with corporate and/or international financial organizations? Mr. Diaz, would you like to respond, please?
Oh, thank you very much. Definitely, as the COVID-19 pandemic hit last year, we made a shift in our program of operations, and we recognized that this was changing the world, and we approved several measures that were going to help countries to happen to pass through the storm this year. The storm in terms of health. We never knew that we had also storm in terms of hurricanes, right? But we have that. We were the first multilateral that announced it, that we were going to finance vaccines, and we created the first bond in the markets that was a thematic bond to finance vaccines, and we are hoping to help with that. But definitely, hospitals are a key sector for our countries, not just because of this pandemic and the current situation we're living on. As you can see, different indicators are around the countries. We have tropical diseases, we have non-communicable diseases, we have problems of malnutrition all around the countries in Central America, and especially in Nicaragua. I think there is a case to work more in that sector. And definitely, you are saying from the climate perspective, bringing new technology or bringing investors alongside to work with this could be important. I want to say, for instance, you look at one slide where we were looking at how we work in the public and private sector, and we work all together with different multilateral, different funds, or even EXIM banks, exports and import banks. And in this case, with the UK, we are happy to work with the UK, and also to work with other different institutions that can help to mobilize funds. As the Lord Mayor said, now there's a lot of liquidity in the market. There's a lot of experience here in the UK, and we would like to mobilize both and bring it back to our member countries in Nicaragua and the whole rest of Central America. So we are happy to work on that, and we already showcased some of these projects. And if whoever sent you this chat, you can give them my details, and we can just have a conversation after this meeting finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. That's a very firm commitment and a yes there. We've got quite a few questions coming in, and I recognize that we're going to run short of time. But I've picked a question which I'm hoping both the Minister and Mr. Diaz can answer. Nicaragua continues driving forward the transition to net zero and to working in the multilateral area to achieve this. What is the country's key message in the run-up to COP26 in Glasgow this year? And I assume, Mr. Diaz, it would be what would be CABE's key message in the run-up to COP26 this year. So if I can welcome just a short response from the two of you, that would be good.
As Mr. Diaz mentioned, Central America suffered from Hurricane Eta and Iota in the period of 2 weeks. We had two hurricanes, one Category 4, one Category 5, that swept through the region. The Nicaraguan economic damage, there was 28 lives lost, 21 lives lost, unfortunately, precious lives. And the damage was equivalent to 6% of the GDP. These storms have become more frequent and more intense. We cannot fulfill the Sustainable Development Goals, fight the pandemic of COVID-19, and deal with the losses and damages of climate change simultaneously. And there is no international support on a systematic basis for losses and damages. So we're going to propose in COP26 that losses and damage be elevated to the same category as mitigation and adaptation in the Convention on Climate Change, so that climate finance can be directed towards loss and damages also. That's one proposal. The other proposal is that the really scientific and just solution to this is that those who have caused the damage create indemnization, reparations for those who suffer the damage without having caused it. This is not a new idea. In common law, it's called a tort. And law students spend many years studying what a tort is. And here we have torts produced by the damages of climate change. So we see that as the objective scientific way to deal with this as we go forward. And sooner or later, the international community has to come to terms with loss and damages as an integral part of climate change. It rounds out the circle of the different elements involved: mitigation, adaptation, and losses and damages. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Dias, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a commitment on first, refraining from projects related to exploitation or extraction of coal and to the energy generation based on coal. Also, we are contributively actively working on structuring first and developing second financial instruments to support mitigation and prevention in the face of climate change. Also, we have an agenda to work in adaptation and for livelihoods to adapt to this new normal or these new higher effects that we have. Also, we are working to strengthen the low carbon economies, this transition, and also the societies to be resilient to climate change. And finally, sustainable food productions. As you can see, all our region is affected by this dry season, and also malnutrition is a problem, like we are seeing in Guatemala and other countries in the region. And finally, several comments before me talk about energy. So we are committed on the transition to clean energy generation and also energy efficiency from the demand side. So these are some highlights on our commitment, and we are working very heavily to achieve the climate goals that we have in our institution.
Thank you, Mr. Dias. Before I deliver a quick thanks, Ambassador, would you like to say a few words? Ambassador, you're on mute.
Yes. Thank you. I want to thank you all and all those participants today, and to Mr. Diaz and Dr. Oquist for the presentation. I think the message is very clear also from the minister and from our presenters today, that from Lord Mayor included, that green finance is the way, is the way to invest, for the investment needed to be resolved in the green climate, to combat climate change, but also to adapt to climate change and to develop a sustainable and resiliency in the future of our region, in the future of Nicaragua, but in the future of the world too. So thank you to all.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now it falls on me as the chair of this session to deliver this vote of thanks. So firstly, many thanks to our illustrious panel, Mr. Diaz from CABE, Minister Oquist from the government of Nicaragua, and indeed our Lord Mayor from the City of London Corporation. And we also have to thank the teams at the embassy in London, but the teams of the government in Nicaragua and CABE as well. Many thanks to the ambassador herself for facilitating this with her team at the embassy in London. Finally, a big thank you to everyone who's dialed into this webinar. For those who are watching on YouTube, we thank you very much. This is a key focus going forward, not just for this year, but for the long term and many more years to come. Thank you, everybody, and have a very good evening.